Listen carefully, for what I am about to tell you will chill you to your very core. It is the story of a bungalow so haunted that its spirits weren't just part of some tale, but had become entwined with the fabric of life itself. The title of today's story is The Haunted Bungalow, A Strange Family, Episode 1. A year ago, something happened in my life that I cannot forget. I had just moved to a new city for work, one of those small offices where you have to struggle every day to make ends meet. But soon after I arrived, I began to experience the most bizarre events of my life. I had chosen to live in a bungalow that seemed to have an old charm to it. Years ago, it had been a mansion, perhaps even royal in stature, but by the time I arrived, it was a decaying haunted house. Intrigued, I wondered if there was some secret buried within the walls of this house. In the beginning, I didn't feel anything out of the ordinary. I still remember those first few days after I entered the bungalow. Everything seemed calm and peaceful, a world away from the city's noise. It was isolated, yet strangely serene, but as we all know, peace is fragile and short-lived. It all began one night. That night was unbearably cold, as if the very cold air from the heavens had entered the bungalow. I was sitting alone in my room, working on some notes for the office, but suddenly the air in the room began to shift. I noticed it immediately. The temperature seemed to drop, not just as a physical sensation, but as though something strange was moving around the room. Then came the sound of footsteps. It was subtle at first, but unmistakable. I realized I was not alone. I turned, hoping to see someone standing behind me. But no one was there, just darkness. The footsteps were coming from the stairs, from an old room. The door to the room was slightly ajar, as if beckoning me in. Cautiously, I moved closer. The sound seemed to be trying to communicate something to me. Once inside the room, I witnessed something that would haunt me for the rest of my life. The walls of the room were covered with strange, eerie pictures. Initially, I thought they were just old photographs, but the more I looked, the more unsettling they became. In one moment, the faces in the photos smiled, and in the next, their expressions twisted into grotesque, monstrous forms. Fear gripped me. I realized these pictures were not just photographs. They were something much darker, something that seemed to move with an unnatural force. I told myself it was just my imagination. But the next morning, when I saw the face of a little boy in one of the pictures, I knew I wasn't seeing things. His hollow eyes seemed to stare right through me, as if trying to communicate. I stepped back in terror. The boy climbed the stairs, and despite my better judgment, I followed him. But when I reached the top of the stairs, I froze. The sight that awaited me was enough to steal my breath away. I knew, instinctively, that I was in danger. I couldn't summon the courage to go any further. After what felt like an eternity, I turned around and fled. Later, I learned the disturbing truth about the family who owned the bungalow. They were not a normal family, they were a haunted one. Whispers filled the town about them, dark rumors that sent chills down your spine. What their true secret was, I didn't know, but I could sense that the bungalow was a place where dark spirits had taken root, a dwelling for something far more sinister than just ghosts. It seemed that strange occurrences followed me wherever I went in that house. The air would grow unnaturally cold at times, or I would catch glimpses of fleeting shadows. I could feel the presence of something watching me. Yet I didn't know the full extent of the curse that had haunted this family for generations. I hadn't yet discovered how deeply the supernatural forces within the bungalow were entangled with their lives. The family itself was the epitome of strangeness. There was something not quite right about them. The way they spoke, the way they moved, the look in their eyes, it all seemed to suggest they were hiding something sinister. The house, too, was filled with an oppressive air of darkness and emptiness that you couldn't escape. Every corner seemed to whisper of something unseen, something waiting to pounce. Though I had many questions, I wasn't yet sure if the bungalow was truly cursed. But as the days went by, the strange events grew more frequent. Sometimes the air would change in an instant, growing colder, heavier. A shadow would flit across the room, vanishing before I could even process it. That was when I realized This wasn't just in my head. The bungalow was haunted by something far darker than I could imagine. But what truly stunned me was when I learned the full history of the land on which the bungalow stood. Apparently, it was built atop an old burial ground, a place where a terrible tragedy had occurred long ago. People spoke of a curse, an ancient evil that had been awakened, and it was said to haunt not just the bungalow, but the surrounding area as well. At this point, I knew that staying any longer in this house would be a grave mistake, but something about the bungalow kept me there. It was as if the house itself had become a trap, its walls pushing me further into the unknown. One day, while walking in the overgrown garden beside the house, I stumbled upon an old wooden box. It had clearly been there for years, hidden away in the underbrush. My curiosity got the better of me, and I opened it. Inside were old, faded papers and several torn photographs. Some of the faces in those photographs seemed familiar, yes, they were members of that strange family. But the most puzzling thing was that among the photographs, there were some that looked brand new. Fresh. Even. I had to wonder, could these people still be alive? The real shock came when I began reading the old papers. The letters contained strange, cryptic messages, questions that seemed to have no answers, but which were terrifying in their implications. One line in particular stood out to me: if a dark force appears before your eyes, what will you do? That question, simple as it seemed, was enough to rattle me. I could feel the weight of an invisible force pressing down on me, threatening to consume me. Now I know that this story is far from over. The mysteries of the bungalow are just beginning to unfold, and the family's dark past is more chilling than I could have ever imagined. The curse that haunts them is far stronger than I thought, and it has a grip on me now too. But there's more. Something even more terrifying is waiting for me in the next episode. The family's secret is about to be revealed, and the supernatural horrors of the bungalow will show their true face. Stay tuned, for an even stranger experience awaits. If you enjoyed this, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any updates on our next mysterious story. Have you ever experienced something scary? Let us know in the comments. If you liked this story, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with your friends. We will reveal the real mystery in the next episode, so make sure to subscribe. And if you were alone and heard something strange, how would you react? Let us know in the comments.